Hello everyone, this is Spliced, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how I customize my Shaman, and as well I'm going to be showing you my gear stats for the character as well, for anyone who may be wondering what I choose and why I choose it. This is just going to be a pretty short video about the choices that I made for this character, since the character itself doesn't really have too much going for it in terms of customization, but you can still make yourself look a little bit unique in comparison to other Shamans. It's just from a distance you won't really see much since she is a smaller looking character, but nonetheless, let's get right into it. So we're gonna start with the look for the first part. So for the helmet, for the hair, I like to go for the mohawk. It's pretty simple, pretty simplistic, nothing really going for it, and with that it kind of like gets rid of the attention from the head. I don't think the head should be the main focus of the character's look. It's more so of the torso. The chest pieces and the weapons are the more focal point for me. So I just kept it simplistic. I like the mohawk. Everything else is it's also good. Like a lot of the other stuff is good, but the ponytail is not really a fan of that, to be honest. So moving on. We have the Madness and Fury chest, and this one I like a lot because it has a full cover on the body and the legs as well, and it has some spikes at the bottom just to add for a little bit of effect there. Pretty nice back as well, nothing really going on in the back, so it's not too cluttered. There are some other ones like this one, for example, which is just the basic, has some extra stuff going on there, but then this one over here has the machete, the bear trap, the shield, and this pouch, and there's just a lot going on in the back, and not really too much of a fan of that. But this one is definitely the one I have decided to go with, and I think it's the best one to go with for myself. Moving on, we have the arms, and this one doesn't really have too much really going for it as well, but the tooths at the bottom, at the gauntlet area, it looks pretty decent. There isn't really much to say about it, to be completely honest. If there is another choice I'd have to go with, I don't have it with me right now, but there's two tooths at the top shoulder blades, and that's about it. As you can see, like, all the shoulder pads pretty much stay the same. The only thing that really changes is the gauntlet itself, so I just went for this one because it appeals to me the most. So moving on to the blade, and this is where it gets a little bit interesting with this class. The axe head, Halls of Cernunnos Hatchet Blade. I can't really say that right. This one looks really nice. It has a really good blood style etching in the inside to really go with the theme of the character, since she has a lot of blood trance abilities and stuff to do with bleeding the enemy. So I think this just really went well with the theme of her character, and I just like the shape of it. It looks really nice, really cool, curved, edgy kind of blade. The second choice I had was this one because it's a little bit bigger and has a really nice blade at the front. The reason why I chose this one over the other one is because I don't really like the part at the top middle. It doesn't really appeal to me too much, but everything else about it is pretty good, so this is another one that I like. And then everything else is pretty standard and generic. I don't really like them too much. This one's decent, but not too great. This one's pretty good too, but not as great as this one in my opinion. And then there you go, and that's pretty much it for that. Moving on to the hilt, this one's pretty self-explanatory. Has 4 red gems to go with the blade on the top, so I went with that. There's one exception though. I don't really like the bottom part of the handle. That could do without, but I can deal with that for now. Everything else is kind of generic. I don't really like them too much, so I went with this one instead. Moving on, we are going to the Scrying Skull Dagger Blade. Now, this one was kind of debatable, to be completely honest. There were a few options, one of them being this. Looks really nice. This looks really nice, of course. And then over here, we have the Tidings Dagger Blade, and this one is very interesting. It kind of has the same thing as a Scrying Skull Blade, but the difference is that it has some pretty cool, interesting bronze etchings on it. And this one has a gold etching. So the reason why I chose this one is the shape of it looks a lot more interesting to me. and appeals to me a little bit more. But it also kind of reminded me of the Dwemer weapons and Dwemer stuff from Skyrim. For those who don't know, it's the dwarven race that did not exist in Skyrim, but their remains did. And this is that gold etching really reminds me of that, so I kind of went for that because it's pretty cool. And that's about it for the weapons and the armor. There isn't really much to go for, to be completely honest, when it comes to this character. Hopefully some customization will come in the future. But for now, I'm pretty satisfied with the way she looks here. I'm actually really satisfied. I like it a lot. And real quick, we're going to go to the ornament. And this one was the Season Pass ornament. And this is definitely the one I like the most because everything else doesn't really seem to fit well with her, to be honest. That one is not bad because it kind of goes in with the hair. But everything else kind of just seems out of place. So this one definitely seems like the one to go for, in my opinion. And now we're going to talk about the colors and patterns on the character. So Rend 2, as you guys see, is the background pattern for the shield. Without the symbol, it looked pretty good on its own, so I decided to go with that. No embossing, but I do have the Lunar Wings, which is what you get from the Nocturnal Stalker mythic outfit. And I pretty much just bought the mythic outfit just for the pattern, this pattern alone. So there you guys go. Actually, I'm going to change my color so you guys can see it a little bit better. There you go. So going onto the right shoulder, this is where I changed it up from the Rend to Smear. I like Smear a lot because it's a bigger version of Rend, and it goes like from one side to the other, and there's a little bit more of them. Kind of looks like a slashing effect, which I think is really cool. And then I just added the good old Lunar Wings on there as well. And I did that pretty much for every other area. I put the Lunar Wings on because I think it's a really cool pattern. Same here, put the Smear effect on the right shoulder, left shoulder. And then chest, I have Smear as well. As you guys see, it looks pretty cool. I like how it goes in opposite directions of each other, so they kind of look like they're crossing over and making a pattern. And then again, I have the Lunar Wings on this as well. Going on to the standards, this is pretty standard for me. I have the Smear paint pattern, but then on top I have my symbol. And then of course material, we have the black cloth. I know people were saying in my black iron video that it's not black iron. I was a little tired at the time, and I didn't really feel like putting in the description that I know it's not black iron. But in my opinion, I just think that the title is better, so I just choose that anyway. Decided to receive a wall of comments saying that it's not black iron, even though I knew full well that it's not. What can you do? Going on to the colors, I have Blood Dragon for neutral, because I think black goes really well in duels. It's pretty menacing. Attacker is good old Dusk, because I like the black and orange is my favorite color combo. Defender is Journey, because that's my second favorite color combo, is the cyan, turquoise-ish teal, that goes with black as well. So that's that color palette. And then we're going to go to outfits. I bought 2 outfits. Actually, I bought 3. But the other one is not used, which is Optical Illusion. I don't use that anymore. I only bought it for the color, which I don't use anymore. And the mythic outfits, I have Nocturnal Stalker right here. I bought that for the the symbol alone, which is kind of a waste of steel, not gonna lie, 15,000 steel, but it was my choice, so I decided to do it. Dawn Sky is the typical effect, as you guys can see over here. If I go to my effects, I have the Plasma Shock, and once again the Plasma Shock as the emote, execution, and idle. I think it's one of the go-to things whenever I get a new character, so that's why I like to use that. I have all the executions unlocked, and this one is my favorite, the Timber one, mostly because of the scream she does here. I like that a lot. That's why I chose it. Alright, so really quick feats. I chose Stun Trap. It's really powerful in both offensive and defensive because it removes their stamina completely, slows them down, and gives you an ability to get them a chance to get them in a guard break, throw them, do 2 heavies into a bleed, which gets you a bite, which is a really powerful combo. So Stun Trap is definitely my most recommended thing to get with this character. Next we have Bear Trap. This one is a little flexible. You can go with Flesh Wound or Revenge Attacks, doesn't really matter. Bear Trap is good for tribute though, for putting traps down on your points. Second Wind is probably the most recommended. I don't really care much for these other two. They don't really give too many bonuses. Second Wind, good for healing. Keep yourself in the fight. Nail Bomb is definitely the go-to. You don't really care about Fire Flask or Scout, because Nail Bomb gives you that bleed, gives you that grab, but it also pretty much one-shots anyone who walks into it. Alright, so now we're going to go into the gear. This is pretty interesting and pretty important. I'm going to try to explain my reasoning for everything. I made this character a full 100% offensive character with 0 defense. And the reasoning for that is because she's most of the time going to be on the offense and not going to be receiving damage in 1v1s. In 2v1s and 3v1s, it can be excused. But for the most part, everyone's going to have defense penetration anyways, so your defense will be nullified, so it doesn't really matter. Negative defense does not mean that you'll take extra damage from people. It just means you're going to be stuck at 0 defense anyways. I chose Exhaustion Recovery and Debuff Resistance at max debuff resistance because, as you guys know, debuff resistance resists the bleed and fire effects, so you guys can lose that bleed as soon as possible when you're going against enemy shamans. Next, we're going to be moving on to the Madness and Fury chest. I chose Revenge Mode Defense because it is very important to have maxed, and Revenge Mode Duration as my second max because I think it's really good to have. Even though duration is really good to have, I think defense is a little bit more better in this situation. Next, we're going to be moving on to the arms, and this is where I chose max stamina cost reduction, and second max is stamina regen. Stamina cost reduction is really good for putting out a lot of your heavies and a lot of attacks to keep the pressure on the enemy, and then stamina regen is second because you don't really lose a lot of your stamina when you're in a fight, and when you win the fight, you should have a lot left over anyways. Next, we're going to be moving on to the Hatchet Blade, and I went for the attack and defense penetration to max because I think that attack and defense pen is the most important thing to have with an offensive build, of course. Block damage isn't really that important at the very moment still. It is pretty powerful, but not really as good as max attack and defense pen. You can get a lot more value off of that than block damage, since if they don't block the attack, you can do a lot more damage with that. Moving on to the handles, we have the attack at max. 10% attack, execution health regen, and revive speed. It is down by 40% and 30%. This is a pretty tricky one that I chose. I decided to go for maximizing all of my damage instead of getting HP from executing or revive speed to 30%. The reasoning for this is I think that it is more valuable to do damage in the moment than to worry about how much HP you heal from an execution, since I don't really think you gain that much anyways or lose that much anyways. So this is my choice, and I'll show you guys after why I chose 10% attack as well. Next, we have the most interesting out of them all is the Dagger Blade, and everything is equal: attack, revenge gain, and revenge mode attack. So all of this is important. Attack is important, the revenge gained is important, and the revenge mode attack is important. You cannot make one of these negative. If you want to go for one of these offensive builds, you have to choose all of them to be equal on this part of the weapon. I would like to have my attack to be at max for this, but the more I think about it and the more I look into it, you get more value overall than when having revenge gained and revenge mode attack with the attack default. So now moving on to the reason why I chose all of this, and this is right here. As you guys can see on the top right, weapon rank, my total attack is 21.20% increase. So I will be doing a 21.20% extra damage to enemies, which is very powerful for the Shaman. As you guys know, she already does a lot of damage, but adding an extra 20% damage is very powerful. Then you go into Tribute and you get the damage buff, which will increase it by, I think, another 25%, which will put yourself up to a 46% extra increase, which is a extremely powerful increase in damage for the character indeed. So that's about it for this character. That's all I really have to say for the customization. This was just a real different video, just a little side video for you guys while I work on some other things. Didn't really have anything planned for the day, so I decided to give you guys my insider on why I chose this stuff for the Shaman. With that being said, hope you guys did enjoy, hope you guys did learn something, and I'll see you guys later.